Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, comic fan. Welcome to the latest episode of New Comics This Week. Is this like the third version of the name of this show? I'm still trying to figure it out. Maybe you'll give me a cool name in the comments. But this is the series where I talk about the comics that are coming out in the following weeks. These are the comics that you need to know about for the final order cutoff date, which is this Monday, August 31st. These are the comics that are coming soon, and if you order them, as per my recommendation, you should be able to get your own copy when the comic releases. Tell them VM Campos sent you. If you're watching live, thanks so much for coming to hang out. Let's talk about comics. Shout it out there in the chat. What comics you're looking forward to, and so forth. Tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm right. And if you're watching this after the fact, recorded, check down on the description to jump to the various sections, to the various publishers of the books. Okay, before we start off, sad news, Chadwick Boseman has died. Hey there, not Carl XD42EIOOS. Chadwick Boseman has died. The actor who plays Black Panther in the Marvel movies has died. He was only 43 years old. He had cancer. Wow, that is a shock. Now, obviously, he was most well known for Black Panther, but he was also in other movies playing, for example, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, and other famous black people in real life. Just extremely sad. So, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Let's see. I know he recorded the last movies. He was actually he was experiencing cancer, late stage cancer and such, as he was filming the last movies. So Black Panther Part 2 is just going to be so poignant when it comes out. So let's move on to this week's particular comics, though, and let's go. All right, here we go. So, not Carl, how are you doing? Thanks for joining. I don't think you've been on the live show before. Thanks for coming by. We're going to talk about all of these comics that are coming out that are brand new. These are the final order cutoff date comics. You need to order these before the... we're not going to get Black Panther versus Namor. Oh, man. You know what, that would have been amazing. First of all, Namor isn't even part of the whole thing yet. Actually, where's my chat box? Here it is. Hold on a moment. Your chat isn't showing up. There we go. There's the chat. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Namor versus Black Panther. That would have been very interesting, definitely. But we'll see what happens. People are saying, don't recast him. But it's like, I don't know, how can you even do future comics without future movies without Black Panther? Okay, let's look at some comics. So where do we want to start out with? Do we want to look first at Image, Marvel, Darkhorse, IDW? Go ahead and pick there in the chat. Which one should we start looking at first about the new comics coming out? I love all comics, all publishers, of course, so we can start with any one of them, but we'll throw it out there to the audience. Which one should we start with? Marvel, Dark Horse, Image, The Independents, etc. Got a lot of good comics that I picked this week for our comics that are new. That homemade iced coffee is pretty tasty. It's actually starting to work. I'm so hyped for the new comics. Okay, well, let's get started over here with Boom Studios. Unkindness of Ravens #1. So the show focuses on issue #1s, collections or trade paperbacks, cool, interesting books and variant covers and valuable ones and all of that. So here's the first one that I'm picking, Unkindness of Ravens from Boom. Dan Panosian is the writer, and artist is Mariana Ignazi. Cover artist by Cristina Calida. This is an amazing cover. Let's get a close-up of this cover. First of all, even if we don't know anything about this comic, look at this cover. Look at this raven like flowers. Inside of the body, the shape of the raven is a lady with like an eye patch and then a little smiley face. Like, this cover is amazing, and like the stark black cover. Okay, what's this about? Not all the witches burned during the Salem witch trials, and the ones that survived did so together. Now, generations later, their descendants protect the ancient secrets entrusted to them. They call themselves the Ravens. Wilma is the new girl in school, and she plans to go completely unnoticed, except that she bears an eerie resemblance to the Raven member Waverly, and Waverly just went missing. Yeah, so it's a brand new comic over from Boom. It's about like witches and high school and probably rated T or so. We can see a little bit of art over here, a few of the pages. So I like the art. It's kind of cartoony, but good design. And setting up the environment and such. So this is one of the ones that I picked here. So trials and tribulations of high school when there's supernatural entities going on. This sounds like something that would be in the Dresden Files. Yeah. What's so cool is that, like, in the world of comics, there's such a variety of stories to get into, from superheroes to supernatural, like everything, and it's amazing. That's why I love comics. I forgot to ask, what's your favorite comics? Who are your favorite characters, publishers, etc.? Let me know about that. All right, so that's my first pick right there. Moving on. Let's look over here. We only find them when they're dead, #1. Second printing. So this comic already came out a couple of weeks ago or whatever, but this is the second printing. So if you missed the first printing, second printing is out. Well, what's this about? Let's go look at the first one for a description. First printing. Captain Malik and the crew of the Vihan 2 harvest the only resources that matter from the giant corpses of alien gods found in the edge of human space, while other autopsy ships race to salvage the meat, minerals, and metals that sustain the human race. Malik sees an opportunity to finally break free from the system. So this series is taking place in the future with beautiful art. Check out this art here. So it takes place in the future where all of these autopsy ships, this is in the year 2323, all of these autopsy ships go to salvage the bodies of dead gods at the edge of space to gather their meat and minerals and whatever from these dead supernatural beings. Amazing art. I love it so much. And the main character Malik is saying, like, what is this all about? Why are these gods, and how can we like know what's going on and such? So check out the variant cover right here. Beautiful art right here. I love this style, very luminous, very, very colorful, and great anatomy on the characters and just great graphic design on it. Al Ewing is the writer on this, and Simone DeMeo is the artist. This is a variant cover by Dan Panosian, however. So if you missed issue #1 first printing, if it's not at the comic shops anymore, second printing is coming out. And if you're a comic reader or a comic collector, this is the comic for you because it's in issue #1. You can start reading it right away. If you're a comic collector, oftentimes second printings, third printings, and so forth are lower print run, meaning they're more rare, meaning they could also be valuable. So in issue #1, second printing is less, there's less copies of it in the world, so that's just the simple, it's just a simple supply and demand sort of thing. That sounds pretty bitching, right? Like, again, this is what comics can be, this range of like, what? This is the future and we're salvaging the corpses of dead gods? Like, wow. So anyway, this is the one I'm picking right. Here's another one I'm picking from Boom Studios. We only find them when they're dead. #1, second printing. The other issues have already come out also. If we go, let's see over here. Issue #2's already come out. Oh, no, actually it comes out October 7th. So issue #1 comes out September 2nd, actually, next week, next Wednesday. So ready to get one of those. Okay, moving on next. Here's another #1 coming soon. Autumnal #1. There's a few different covers. I went with cover B, which I think is freaking epic and disturbing. Check out this cover right here. Like, what is even going on in this cover? I see like a bunch of leaves in the background, but then there's like an evil eye, and there's blood, and there's like a torn up postcard, and it's like cool font. Like, what is this story even about? Here's what this story is about. Following the death of her estranged mother, Kat Somerville and her daughter, Sybil, flee a difficult life in Chicago for the quaint and possibly pernicious town of Comfort Notch, New Hampshire. From New York Times bestselling author Daniel Kraus, who worked on The Shape of Water, Troll Hunters, and The Living Dead with George A. Romero, inventor of the zombie genre, basically, and rising star Chris Sheehan, comes a haunting vision of America's prettiest autumn. So we have a little bit of interior art here as well. If you look at this art looks amazing. I like how the edges, like there's no like clearly defined edges of the borders of things. It's like scratchy edges and so forth. And then the interior, on this preview they're not showing any of the words, just the art. And already you can tell like this is like a dark story, you know. There's like a mother and daughter running away from Chicago. The mother's got a black eye, that, you know, that means something there. And they're like, you know, we're having trouble, but don't worry, we're here in it together. Like, yeah, Mom, I believe you. And she's kind of a little beat up too, so it's kind of a dark story, right? But then we have like the light of a new day, because we are now living in a new world, a new town, Comfort Notch. But of course, because this is kind of like supernatural. Oh, look at that! The little kids are looking at the chalk drawings on the floor. And what are these chalk drawings? There's like cult members in the woods. There's like an evil entity killing someone, rainbows and little piggies and stuff. Evil pigs. Oh, here comes an evil pig about to steal a child from a basket or something. So here's the preview of this. Autumnal #1 coming out soon. This is from Vault Comics. Daniel Kraus is the writer, Chris Sheehan is the artist, and cover artist, this is a Nathan Gooden cover right there. So what do you think about this one? Again, the range of comics, we're going to cover, of course, Marvel and Image and all of them, but these are just a bunch of #1s and interesting comics that were coming out that I thought were pretty interesting. Chicago's not that great. Did you ever live there? Is that from like the movies, or you have first-hand experience? I've only lived here in San Diego, Southern California, my whole life, and you know, right now I'm looking out the window and it's nice, beautiful, bright and sunny. It's a little too warm, but I grew up right here in sunny San Diego. America's finest city. That's our motto. Oh, not Carl. You get 1,000 VEM Compost points if you invite 1 or 2 people to the stream. Tell them to come and hang out and watch the stream right now. We'll talk about comics. I totally appreciate that if you share my link for the video right now, and we'll talk about comics. Next up, Invader Zim, quarterly #2. It's first-hand knowledge of the world of Chicago. Ooh. Well, I'm sure you got some interesting stories, and whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, right? Okay, so Invader Zim quarterly #2 from Oni Press. Invader Zim just finished issue number 50 at Oni Press. The series just ended at issue 50. The final issue was kind of anticlimactic. And now they're transitioning to doing Invader Zim quarterly. So instead of publishing every month, they're going to publish every 3 months. And it's now called Invader Zim Quarterly. Invader Zim Quarterly #1 just came out 1 or 2 weeks ago. #2 is coming out, you know, soon-ish. So you're on mobile, you don't have the link. Oh, okay, no problem. I can possibly, you know, no big deal, but I can put it right here in the chat for you. I have the technology right there, if you want. But anyway, I appreciate it. So Invader Zim Quarterly is happening every 3 months or so, and here we have Dib's Dilemma. So millionaire Max Beesworth, owner of the local honey mine, is hosting a cryptid challenge. Anyone can present a cryptid whose veracity will be judged by none other than noted skeptic Professor Membrane. And this time Dibs finally caught Zim and will prove to the world once and for all that he's a real alien threat. Unless, of course, Gurr gets covered in bees and mistaken for the infamous Beeboo Goat, an undead goat made of bees. Why would that happen? So it's $5.99 now instead of $3.99, and it's because it's the quarterly book. It's a little bit longer, a little bit thicker than the regular issues. Written by Sam Logan and art by Warren Wucinich. So I liked Invader Zim. I remember when it debuted on TV back in like 2001. A long time ago. That's almost 20 years ago. I can hardly believe it. And then the Invader Zim comic has been fun. It really does feel like the continuation of the TV show. And like I said, issue 50 ended the main series. I believe it was a little anticlimactic. But then now I have a new quarterly stories. And this one is Dib's Dilemma from Oni Press. Moving over to Aftershock Comics, we have Miles to Go #1. Okay, when I read the description on this one, this was like epic. Amara Bishop is a newly single mother with a long-buried past. Raised by an alcoholic father in a rundown trailer, Amara was a child when she learned to kill. And she hasn't killed anyone since she was 13. When her aging mentor is murdered and her daughter is threatened, that will soon change. An unlikely assassin in a deadly game of cat and mouse, brought to you by B. Clay Moore, who worked on Hawaiian Dick and Battle Hymn, and Stephen Molnar, who worked on Imaginary Friends and Star Trek. So it's basically, you know, a mother-daughter assassin team that someone comes back for revenge or something. It's like John Wick-ish, sort of. And here's the cover. So we have this like cool graphically designed, okay, it's like, you know, a girl sitting on a bed, and like there's cool like pink tones and purple tones, and cool, I like that. But then if you look in the corner, that's a gun. I don't know my gun, so I don't know what kind of gun that is. Let's say it's a 9mm Glock 47, whatever. And there's a gun under the bed, and she's got like a scraped up knee, and then it's the Miles to Go. I kind of don't like on the logo that they have like the arrow. Here's the base of the arrow, and then there's the head of the arrow. So it's like an arrow, but I don't like that it's there because then it looks like it says I Miles to Go. It's just supposed to be like the complete arrow. Kind of like that old kind of car right there. And this is from Aftershock, so Clay Moore and Stephen Molnar as the creators from Aftershock. I've enjoyed Aftershock Comics. They published a lot of cool things, such as Animosity. I really liked that series. It was basically giving me vibes of The Walking Dead, but what would happen is like all of the animals gained sentience and could then talk, and then sought revenge against the human race. So that was over on Animosity from Aftershock. And here we have Miles to Go, a brand new issue #1 from Aftershock. Next up, okay, this one's hilarious. Ninjas and Robots #2. This is from Keenspot Entertainment. Let's go actually to issue #1 just to give you a synopsis of what the book is. But I picked issue #2. Okay, so manga meets punk rock as Kubert School alum Eric Klaus slings his comic style ink to bring you story and art like you've never seen before. After severing some evil robot heads and dishing out some face-busting ninja action, Yuki's lost memories started to bleed back, but will it be enough to keep her alive? Sexy ninja assassins and killer tracker robots are on the menu, and Yuki's dishing out the main course. So here's the regular art. It's sort of like this wacky, mannered style. Not realistic at all, but I think it fits with like the wackiness of it all. Ninjas and robots. And what's coming soon is issue #2, and if you are an aficionado of manga, this cover might seem really familiar. Anyone recognize what this cover style was borrowed from? If you're into manga, you might recognize it. Going once, going twice. Anyone know what this cover is an homage to? Here's a hint. It is the starting story. Dragon Ball, you got it exactly. The very first Dragon Ball series. Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball. So here we have Bulma, and then we've got who was in the car down there? Master Roshi, maybe. But yeah, this is like in the style of Akira Toriyama. No, you got it actually. Yeah, it was a good guess then, because Dragon Ball is one of the most famous manga out there, right? But yeah, this is an homage to an old Dragon Ball cover, but for this brand new series, Ninjas and Robots. And this is the alternate cover by Go Chi. So, yep, I'm picking this one. Ninjas and Robots from Keenspot. Next up, this one's pretty cool. From Archie Comics, we've got Sabrina, Something Wicked 3 of 5. Now, obviously, go back to issues 1 and 2 to know what's going on in this particular series. But I picked this one because I really liked the cover. It's this, like, paper doll style, where you can cut out Sabrina and cut out her cool shoes and her alternate outfit over here and paste them on, and it's like you gotta buy one copy to read and one copy to cut up so you can put Sabrina together. Now the problem, of course, is if you do cut out this outfit and put it on this body, her legs are gonna cover the broom. Even though her hand is there like to hold the broom, her legs are gonna cover the broom. So obviously they don't really want you to cut it out. But I like this cover a lot. It's fun. It's like this, it's like notebook paper from if you're writing in your high school papers, and it's got a really cool style of Sabrina Spellman. This is not the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina version. It's not, TVMA sort of thing. It's, it's G-rated sort of thing. And this is a cover art by Sweeney Boo. Kelly Thompson is the writer. Veronica Fish is the main artist. We can see some interior art here. I think in the preview art here, it's showing it in black and white, but I'm 99% sure it is in color. It's just that the preview is black and white, plus doesn't show any of the text. But this is also cool style that I like. This is the kind of style that I wish to draw, that I wish I could draw as good as that style. And look at that. There's like some weird conquistador skeleton battling some other mages and so forth, and Sabrina skulking about, and yeah, in color it looks pretty amazing. Even in black and white it looks really cool. And then here they are watching some scary movies. They're getting scared. There's Salem. Everyone's getting scared. I love that art right there. So I love this variety of realistic art and cartoony art. Panel layouts are cool. I like this zigzagging, like the angle. Here's some action. Sabrina is getting attacked by the evil plants, and then she uses her magic to fry them, and then the other warlocks come out and the witches and such, and she stops them. So this is a new Sabrina series, and this is already issue number 3 coming soon, but of course you can go back and get issue 1 and 2. I'm not going to read the synopsis because it's going to spoil things. You want to go back to issues 1 and 2. Let's go to issue number 1 actually, and get a synopsis of issue number 1. So here's issue number 1, another cool cover. Because You Demanded It, Volume 2 of the critically acclaimed Sabrina the Teenage Witch series by Kelly Thompson and Veronica and Andy Fish. Sabrina saved the day, saved her friends, her family, the whole town of Greendale really, and she should be riding high. But things are never quite that simple. She's trapped in a love triangle. She's having trouble balancing the mortal and witch parts of herself. Oh yeah, and she's also being blackmailed. As if all that wasn't enough, while trying to help Radha and Ren with their supernatural problems, her aunt's suddenly starting to look like people she can't trust. What's a teen witch to do? Really cool cover here. I love her outfit. And there's Salem down there. This is Veronica Fish art. I love her expression. I love her white hair with the purple glow and everything. Cool demonic entity in the background. This is a limited series 1 to 5. So Carl, do you like to read individual books, or do you like to read trade paperback collections of things? Personally, I like to read individual books and then maybe get a collection eventually, but what about yourself? What about everyone in the chat? I see several people there lurking in the chat. Thank you for coming to hang out. We're talking about comics. Shout it out in the chat there if you want to see something in particular. But we just looked right here at Sabrina, The Teenage Witch, Volume 2 or whatever. Something Wicked, number 3 of 5. Okay, here's an interesting one. Vlad Dracul, number 1, second printing. This is from Scout Comics. Vlad Dracul 2, the Impaler, the son of the dragon, as a warlord, a voivod, a guardian warrior, an iconic historical figure who was able to successfully strike fear into the hearts of the fearsome Ottoman Empire. Vlad is an epic story of love and war, a historical ride with rivers of blood, tears, swords, and love, and a discovery of a man that was perhaps the most famous warrior of his era, that inspired the Dracula legend. This is the story of the man behind the myth. Let's get a close-up of the cover right here. So, this is the inspiration of Dracula. There was Vlad Tepes, the Romanian, I believe, Transylvanian historical figure, and inspiration of the later Dracula novel by Bram Stoker. And here is second printing. It's kind of expensive, $6.99. Comics are usually $3.99 or $4.99, but I guess from the smaller companies, maybe they need to charge that much. And maybe it's longer than usual. The preview worlds here doesn't tell you how many pages are in these things, so who knows how many pages this is, but $6.99 is a little pricey. And so this is second printing. And once again, if you're a reader, you got to get this book because it's issue number 1. If you're a collector, it's issue number 1, plus it's a second printing from an independent comic company, and it's got a lower print run, so it could be valuable in the long term. The regular cover is in color. You can see it right there, pretty cool, with the red tones and so forth. Very nice. The red armor, red cape and so forth, very stylized, painterly cover. And that one was also $6.99, so that is Vlad Dracul number 1 from Scout Comics, coming soon. Okay, at Image Comics, we have Spawn number 309. Spawn is a world record-breaking comic book. It is the longest-running comic book. Asterisk. It is the longest-running independent comic book that has not been restarted. For example, Spider-Man is at issue 840 or so, but it originally went to like 400 issues, and then it restarted to number 1 when Marvel went bankrupt in the 90s. It then went on for another like 40 issues, or I don't know how many, and then it came back to its original numbers at 500 or so. So then it went from 500 to 700, and then the series ended again with the death of Peter Parker, quotes, and then it restarted again with issue number 1 in 2014, and then it restarted again in issue number 1 in like 2016, and then it went back to its original numbers of 800 a couple of years ago, and then it went back to issue number 1 again recently. So Spider-Man has had lots of issue number 1s. Batman, it recently reached 1,000 issues, and Action Comics, where Superman debuted, also recently reached 1,000 issues. Spawn has never reset its numbering, has been publishing monthly since 1992. So it's a world record-breaking comic that it has never renumbered, restarted. It has gone furthest than any other comic book. The record used to be with Cerebus, Dave Sims Cerebus at Aardvark Vanaheim, which started in 1977, I think, 79, and went all the way until 2004, 300 issues, the end. But Spawn just reached 300 9 months ago or so, and now they're at 309. So this is 309 second printing. New heroes, new villains, new war. The mysterious and dangerous army of Spawns continues to grow. First She-Spawn and Reaper, Then medieval Spawn, now gunslinger Spawn, has made his presence known. But who is a hero and who is a villain? And is Al Simmons strong enough to control them all? Maybe this new armor will help Todd McFarlane and Ken Lashley continue their epic tale. So, I've been picking up a few issues before we got to 300. I started to get Spawn in my pull list. And so it was really cool to see that, because I got like the first issues of Spawn way back in the 90s when I first was reading comics, and I thought it was very cool, and it continued to go on throughout the decades, literally, and then I started to read it again recently, and I'm still reading it here, and so I've got Spawn 309 as my pick, as one of my picks. This is one of the few comics that is this affordable, $2.99. Most comics are $3.99, $4.99, and Marvel and DC love publishing comics that are like $9.99 because it's a special issue. But this one is still oftentimes simply $2.99. Speaking of long-running comics, the other long-running comic from Image is Savage Dragon. Savage Dragon just reached 250 issues, and here they are doing issue 252. And this is a parody of the classic comic strips. This is supposed to be Malcolm Dragon as Dagwood Bumstead from the vintage comic strips of Blondie and so forth. So, Sunday Funnies, another wildly experimental issue wherein each double-page spread is told in the style of a classic newspaper comic strip. From a Peanuts parody to a Dick Tracy send-up, from Doonesbury Lampoon to a Blondie satire, this issue is sure to amaze and inspire. Hey, Stevie, how are you doing? We're talking about Savage Dragon 252, so welcome to the show. So writer Eric Larson and artist is Eric Larson, and this is another comic that has been published non-stop since like 1992, although, to be honest, I haven't really read it that much, and it seems like they were publishing perhaps bi-monthly or something, every other month, and now they're going to every month, and they just reached a milestone 250 issues, and this one seems really interesting because they are Eric Larson is doing in the style of classic comics like Charlie Brown, Dick Tracy, and Doonesbury and such. Here's another Image book. This is a trade paperback collection, Clock, or The Clock. Matt Hawkins is the writer and Colleen Doran is the artist. I love her work, and she's got a really cool style of art. Within 3 weeks, hundreds of millions of healthy people worldwide contract various forms of aggressive cancer, and the proliferation, seemingly a viral outbreak, stumps the best scientific minds available. Now, is this a comic book or is this real life? But after a leading cancer researcher loses his wife and watches his 9-year-old daughter begin to succumb to the same illness, he must race against the clock to end a global conspiracy that could propel the world straight into World War III or worse. Now, this comic was published last year, back in the good old days, back in the old times, before we had the pandemic. And so this is very different now that we're living in the year 2020, but when this was published in 2019, it was like, oh, look at this interesting, funny story on the comics. And nowadays, it's like not the same. So, interesting. This is Doran 16. Was this cover made way back in 2016? And then it was used here? Actually, when was The Clock first published? Because I remember talking about it in my previous episodes. Let me see. Guess. Well, whenever that was first published, nowadays it takes on new meaning with a global pandemic going on. Okay, let's look at Darkhorse. Will destroy the galaxy for cash. So this is like the when people have those signs, you know, we'll work for food. So here we have, we'll destroy the galaxy for cash. This cover is really fun. It's kind of like in the style of these old pulp magazine 1930s, 1940s, 1950s fantasy comics, especially with that ray gun. Look at that chonky ray gun, and it's got the setting stun and kill. And then what does that text say? Intermediate problems, all immediate something, all immediate problems, fixes all immediate problems. I don't know what that says, but anyway, it's got a guy going through like a portal, and it's got this old classic style of clothing. With the age of heroic star pilots and galactic villains completely killed by quantum teleportation, the ex-star pilot currently named Dashford Pierce is struggling to find his identity in a changing universe. Then a face from his past returns and makes him an offer he can't refuse. Take part in just one small, slightly illegal heist, and not only will he have the means to start the new life he craves, but he also will save his childhood hero from a certain death. What could go wrong? So that sounds pretty fun. We have Yahtzee Croshaw as the writer. It doesn't mention who the artist is, but probably also Yahtzee, who worked on Mogworld, Jam, and Differently Morphous. $12.99. It is a single trade paperback. Seems pretty fun. What do you think about that? It's like time travel adventures, galactic stuff going on. Feels like a classic comic from the golden age. And the title sounds interesting. We'll destroy the galaxy for cash. This is published over by Darkhorse. The next Darkhorse item is actually not a comic book, but a cool mug. We have the Cyberpunk 2077 Night City mug. More exciting products inspired by the characters and settings of the beautiful, gritty, and often deadly world of Cyberpunk 2077. This 11-ounce mug features the Night City emblem and the text, "The worst place to live in America," on the inside of the mug, a title the inhabitants of Cyberpunk voted on in the year 2077. So a cool little mug with this cool design for this game that is also a comic book. I kind of love it how there's like movies or TV shows or comic books, and then there's like a real life thing about it, like a t-shirt from the world of that comic or movie or whatever, or a mug. So if you read the comics, played the game, and then you have this in real life, it's kind of cool to show that off. Do any of you there in the chat have any of that? Perhaps any real life merchandise that comes from a game or a movie or whatever? Like, let me see, do I have anything like that? Do I have any collectibles or anything that comes from like a TV show? I'm kind of blanking at the moment, but if you do, tell me about it, because that's kind of cool. Like, oh, this is, oh, I know, here's an example. Like, remember Back to the Future, where they had the almanac, the sports almanac that would tell you all the sports scores until the year 2000. There's a real life version of that that was eventually published. I don't have it, but it's like, it's kind of cool to have a real life version of a movie or TV show thing in real life. So here's an example of this mug. All right, IDW. Batman and the Max, Arkham Dreams. So the Max is one of these Image comics from the 90s that is a very interesting, surreal comic book. And the Max met Batman a few years ago. The thing was that this was going to be a 5-part series, but only issues 1, 2, and 3 were published. And it's been several years, and number 4 and 5 have never been published yet. So on the cover of this, we have the Max saying, is Sam, and Sam Keith is the creator of this, is Sam done with issues 4 and 5 yet? And Batman is like, who knows? And the story here, Sam Keith's best-selling Batman Max series is finally coming to incredible conclusion, but not here. This bargain-priced compendium collects the first 3 issues of the acclaimed and very late Batman Max miniseries by superstar creator Sam Keith, followed by the release of issues 4 2 weeks later and 5 2 weeks after that. Really? And to show how serious we are, we will present incredible added content, thumbnails of the entire 2 final issues of the art every page. The end is coming in a wonderful way. So, if you were reading Batman Max 1, 2, and 3 and like, where's issue 4 and 5? It's finally coming. Here is a complete collection compendium to get you ready for the next issues. And the series is finally ending. People thought this was going to be one of the examples of a never finished comic book, like Kevin Smith's Batman Widening Gyre, or what else did Kevin Smith not finish? Well, these other series that never finish, also like Void Indigo, and people thought this series was never going to finish for whatever reason, but it looks like it is going to finish, so that's cool. Can we find here Batman Max? Can we find that here? Yeah, here it is. So if we look at let's take a quick look over here. If we look at the original comic, so the very first comic issue came out in October 2018, and then we got issue number 2 also in October 2018, and then number 3 came in December 2018, and then no more issues. Then we're eventually going to have in October 2020, number 5, and then in November, number 4, and then number 5. So if you see there October 2020 versus October 2018, this comic has been 2 years late, basically, but at least it looks like it's going to finish. And then here we have this epic cover, Batman versus the Max. Get a close-up on that. I love that Sam Keith art style. This looks like it's watercolor. No, it's not. Maybe Prismacolor, colored pencils. What does that look like to everyone there in the chat? Watercolor or colored pencil? I think it's colored pencil, right? It's like you can see here the black colored pencil strokes, the colorization of the purple. Yeah, that looks like colored pencils, Prismacolors or something. And then over here you can see like the pressing down on the paper where it makes that like indentation that always happens. And looks amazing. So interior art of that. There's also probably colored pencil. These Sam Keith's art on this was always amazing. Look at that, the Max. So this is one of these mashups or meetups that is like, how could you have Batman plus look at these wacky things. So there's the Batmobile. So Batman and the Max. The issue is finally ending. Oh, I love the mannered style of Batman. Cool. So the series is finally coming to a conclusion and coming soon. Next up, from IDW/Top Shelf, we have Redbone, true story of a Native American rock band. Experience the riveting, powerful story of the Native American civil rights movement and the resulting struggle for identity told through the high-flying career of West Coast rock and roll pioneers Redbone. You've heard the hit song Come and Get Your Love in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, but the story of the band behind it is one of cultural, political, and social importance. Brothers Pat and Lolly Vegas were talented Native American rock musicians that took the 1960s Sunset Strip by storm. They influenced The Doors, jammed with Jimi Hendrix before he was Jimmy, and the idea of a band made up of completely Native Americans soon followed. So it's a biographical story of the real people that formed the band. Native Americans, indigenous people that oftentimes don't have a voice in pop culture and such. And so this is again the beauty of comic books, that they can go from Batman stories to historical fiction stories, fantasy, children's stories, mature stories, all ages stories, and this is an example of that. So it is $19.99, so it's a complete collection. It's a complete trade paperback. Redbone, the true story of Native American rock band. It doesn't have any art preview, so I don't know what the interior art looks like. That is by Tybalt Balahi, written by Christian Stabler and Sonia Paolini. If the interior art is as nice as this cover art right here, I would love that. IDW, here's a brand new Sonic comic book. This is Sonic the Hedgehog Bad Guys #1. Let's get a close-up over here. I love how it's got all of these red tones. Anyone play any of the Sonic games back in the day or recently? It was interesting how it was first, just Sonic the Hedgehog himself. Then eventually we got Miles. And then we got Amy, Rogue the Bat, Big the Cat, and Knuckles the Echidna, and Shadow, and so many Sonic characters. And there's been even many more coming out in the various comic books. The mastermind behind the metal virus isn't done yet. Ian Flynn returns to answer what happened to Dr. Starline. The shadowy scientist is back to his evil antics in Bad Guys, and what better place to concoct nefarious plans than one of Dr. Eggman's abandoned bases. But that is easier said than done when badniks are guarding the entrance. Dr. Starline knows he can't do it alone, so he decides to recruit some familiar and not-so-friendly faces. So it's in issue #1. Ian Flynn is the writer. Jack Lawrence is the artist. This cover here is by Aaron Hammerstrom, so it's different art than what is on the inside. And do we see any other ones? No. So it's a 4-issue limited series, Sonic the Bad Guys #1. If you're into the Sonic books, they moved over to IDW a few years ago. They were published at Archie Comics for 280 issues since the 90s, and then they moved to IDW, started at #1 again. New plots, the metal virus was going on, the metal virus saga was going on recently. After that's been resolved, here's this miniseries. Let's get some Marvel books. So we have the Immortal She-Hulk #1. Anyone reading the Immortal Hulk? That one is extremely popular at the moment. People love it. And here we have She-Hulk getting in on things. So here's the Alex Ross variant cover. As usual, Alex Ross's amazing art. If we get a close-up, it's so good. It's so realistic. The only problem, of course, is that this is She-Hulk's old costume. She's not in this anymore. She should be, Alex Ross should be doing her current costume, but it's classic She-Hulk costume. Al Ewing is the writer. John Davis Hunt is the artist. Alex Ross cover. In the wake of Empire, Jennifer Walters goes immortal. The Kotati invasion has changed everything for Jennifer Walters. Now she seems to have a new lease on life, and things are never that simple for the Gamma-powered. Al Ewing gives She-Hulk the immortal treatment with a horrifying standalone tale. I'm not sure if this is just issue number 1, or it's going to go for a few issues or whatever, but this is the whole immortal storyline sort of plot for Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk. Juggernaut number 1. Now, I haven't been keeping up with Juggernaut at all, and since he's an X-Men character and I don't really read too many X-Men books, I don't really know too much about Juggernaut. So I don't know what his current plots are all about, but there's something important enough about the what is this over here? Got a notification about something. Big bucks. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with Juggernaut. Are they making him an anti-hero? Is he going away from his old villainous role? I don't know. Ready or not, here he comes. A mystic gem, a force of overwhelming power. Nothing can stop the Juggernaut, except himself. Another building falls. Kane Marco is done letting others pick up the pieces of the things he's destroyed. Renowned ex-scribe Fabian Nicieza, who was co-creator of Deadpool, and celebrated artist Ron Garney, who worked on Captain America and Daredevil, team up to take the Unstoppable in a new, bold direction. So, it's in issue number 1 of 5. This is the Ron Garney variant cover. Apparently there's a bunch of covers. And yeah, so Juggernaut limited series. If we look closely right here, this seems to say 00151. This of course means 001, it's issue number 1. At the end here, number 1 means it's first printing, but this 5 right here means it's the 5th variant cover. But Previews World is not showing other variants over here, so what are the other variant covers? Alright, so that one's coming up. Now here's something near and dear to my heart. Spider-Man, Kraven's Last Hunt. Select hardcover, select edition hardcover. This is when I first got into comics, way back in 1987. I was 9 years old, and my family was going to the beach. We stopped off at the local 7-Eleven to get snacks or whatever. On the comic book spinner rack, there was a Spider-Man comic. And it was Spider-Man trapped in a he was trapped in a net with a gun pointed at him in a rainy night. I flipped through the book. It was amazing. Eventually we bought it, and I started my comics reading and collecting Odyssey way back in 1987. So the very first plot was Kraven's Last Hunt. Kraven the Hunter kills Spider-Man and takes his place. Spoiler alert, he didn't really kill him. Spoiler alert for a 30-year-old comic book, right? And this collects it all into one nice hardcover with this amazing Resurrection cover. So this is $24.99, and it collects the whole plot, which happened upon all 3 of the Spider-Man titles at the time. Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man. 3 issues each, or 2 issues each, 6 in total. J.M. DeMatteis and Mike Zeck craft the ultimate tale of revenge, in the latest in our series of graphic novels handpicked by Marvel Editorial to showcase pivotal storylines written and drawn by some of Marvel's most acclaimed creators. Kraven the Hunter has stalked and killed every beast known to humanity. But there is one prey that has eluded him, one quarry that has mocked him at every turn, the Spider. Now, in one last hunt, Kraven will finally prove he is Spider-Man's master by burying him alive and taking his place. To destroy... Now that kind of gives it away, because in the story you don't know that he's buried alive. So, to destroy the Spider, he must become the Spider. Prepare for one of the greatest Spidey stories ever told, a tale that has cast its shadow over Peter Parker's life for years. Collecting web of number 31 to 32, Amazing 293 to 294, and Spectacular 131 to 132, rated Teen Plus. Because we've also got nudity and violence and blood in this, and it collects the whole story. And again, what a way to get started in comics, 9 years old, and seeing this sort of like very mature story as my very first comic books. So people can experience it themselves in this hardcover select edition. Next up, okay, I'm picking a bunch of these printings, second printing, fourth printing, whatever. I'm picking Thor number 2, fifth printing, simply for the collectors out there. If you're reading these books, great, you've already read it. But I'm giving these a shout out for the collectors. Fifth printing. This is very rare. Most books don't go this far. They go to second print, maybe third print. Although it seems that Marvel is the one that often prints fourth, fifth, and sixth printings most often. These are very low print runs compared to the other ones. Let's say the regular print run of this issue, first printing, was like, let's say 50,000, just to pick a number. There were 50,000 printings. Well, these are less, and less. I don't doubt that this is like 3,000 print run. So that means there's only 3,000 of them that would exist in the world. And so for the collectors, get this book because it's gonna be valuable. Mark my words. If you go look at the later printings of things, let's just go look one right here. Edge of Spider-Verse. Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. You know, if we look at first printing, it's $300. If you look at the second printing, it's $46. So, well, actually, that's bids. $325. If we look at third print, that one is $69 or so. If we look at fourth print, that one is still $50, and I believe it only went up to fifth printing. So that one is also $30 to $60 to $50. So I have a fifth printing of that, and a first printing, no big. So yeah, even for here, so a pivotal plot point, fifth printing, this is gonna be money in the bank. If you just want to read it, of course, you know, read it. But if you're collecting, this is one to collect. Along the same lines, Thor number 5, fourth printing. So same idea. If you've read it, you've read it. If you're collecting, get this one, fourth printing of that. Another one right here, Venom 25, fourth printing. I just picked up third printing a couple of days ago at the shop, and now there's a fourth printing coming out. So okay, that's another one where I'm gonna get that because of these printings. And here is Venom symbiote possessing Devil Dinosaur or whatever. So Carnage versus Venom and Dino Venom. So fourth printing. This is panels taken from the interior of the book. So fourth printing of issue 25. I have first printing, third printing, and I'll get 4th printing probably. One more, Venom 26, 3rd printing. So here we've got Dylan Brock, I guess, and Venom, Eddie Brock, 3rd printing. You can see right here 02613, so issue 26, 1st cover, 3rd printing for the collectors. One more Marvel book, Wolverine number 4, 2nd printing. So the latest Wolverine comic after Wolverine came back, and we've got Omega Red really messing with Wolverine. This is 2nd printing, issue number 4. Again for the collectors. There's a Kubert cover, Adam Kubert cover, $3.99. They should have changed the cover a little bit more than the regular cover. The regular cover is in full color. I mean, 1st printing, that is in full color, and then the interior, and then the 2nd printing, as we saw here, is mostly black and white with some splashes of color. And then moving on over here to Dynamite, I'm picking Vengeance of Vampirella number 10, the cosplay cover. So I think this is a very on-model Vampirella outfit. Cool sword, and I don't think the cosplayer is at a real castle, but that looks cool there as well. The hair is also very good, so I think, and then the boots. So I think a very authentic Vampirella cosplay. I've been enjoying the Vengeance of Vampirella book. I just finished reading number 9 a couple days ago, and basically it is like volume 2 of the series that came out in the 90s, Mistress Nyx and the Lords of Chaos. Back in the first volume, which was in the 90s, they killed Vampirella, they took over the world, enslaved humanity, and it was not a good ending. 20 years later, we have volume 2, humanity's trying to resurrect Vampirella. Now, spoiler alert, they did, because this is issue number 10, so they were trying to resurrect her in issue 1 and 2 and 3 and such. They finally resurrected her, so now Vampirella's back to fight for humanity. So Mistress Nyx continues her war against the last vestiges of humanity, while Vampirella begins the process of rebuilding the Danse Macabre. What sort of bargain has she made with Abaddon, the Angel of the Apocalypse? And what part will the Vampire Lord Mazarine and his undead play in the growing conflict? So it's an over-the-top vampire story, and Vampirella and versus Nyx and all of that, and so I'm usually on the lookout for the cosplay covers. And the last comic to talk about today is Mega Man, Fully Charged, number 1, from Boom Studios. This is 2nd print. So if we go look at 1st printing, issue number 1 for a synopsis. It's a new beginning for the worldwide cultural phenomenon featuring heroes like Mega Man, Rush, and Dr. Light, trying to save Silicon City from the villainous forces of the Robot Masters, set in the world of the Mega Man Fully Charged TV series. After Mega Man's father, Dr. Light, is kidnapped, a shocking truth rocks Mega Man's world, as it seems that the Robot Masters know more about this secret history than he does. When Mega Man's forgotten memories of the brutal human-robot war are triggered, our hero is left to question just who he is, and if he can trust anyone or anything. So a brand new Mega Man series based on the latest show. Here's some interior art. This is the style that I really like, that it's like this cyberpunk, bright, luminous style. I like the panel layouts. It's this is what I like about comics, that we have this style where we've got this full page, and then on top of it we've got these smaller panels that drive the action. I think that's a very creative way of doing things. And yeah, so that's a new series, a Mega Man series. There's various cool covers. For this week, I'm picking the Second printing, to be honest, I don't love this cover. I think the anatomy is weird. To be honest, I think the face is a little weird. I think, one eye is bigger than the other eye. What do you all think there in the chat? I think one eye is bigger than the other and kind of like slanted in a weird way. I think Mega Man's shoulders look a little weird. I don't know. I honestly, I would give this cover like a C- grade. I don't like this cover. Why am I picking it then? Well, because it's in issue number 1 and it's a second printing. So for the collectors, multiple printings could be valuable. And it's in issue number 1 for the readers. Stefano Simeone, I liked their art in Read-Only Memories a lot, but this cover looks like kind of like quickly put together, not quite amazing. I think better than what I can do, but I just don't kind of love this art compared to the other ones, like this other art over here. This is by Tony Infante. So Simeone is doing the interior art, which is probably way better. But here is this other art. I think this art is way better. So I think that's where we'll end this week's show. We've been streaming for an hour and 7 minutes. Hopefully you enjoyed the comics I picked out. Hopefully you like these new comics this week. I do the show every Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time to talk about the new comics that are coming. If you visited live, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming to hang out and talking about comics. We'll be back again next Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Adjust your time zone. Tell your friends to come and hang out and talk about comics. You and me and everyone will talk about comics. If you're watching the video after the fact, again, thanks for checking it out. Don't forget to like, to follow, comment, and all of that. Tell me about the comics that I missed. Tell me about the comic books that you liked, the ones that you didn't like, comics that you're reading, and so forth. You'll be back for Magic. Yeah, see you later tonight at Magic. People that are hanging out at the moment. I also do a stream at 8 p.m. Pacific time where we play Magic Arena. But anyway, on this show, we talk about the new comics that are coming in the following week. I do it every Saturday, 1 p.m. Hope to see you next time. And don't forget to follow and to like and to subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can keep up to date with comic books, top 5 lists, a whole bunch of other comic-related things, cosplay videos, San Diego Comic-Con videos, Magic videos, food videos, technology, a bunch of stuff at my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Check out my Patreon. It's over there in the corner. I never mentioned it, but look over there, patreon.com/vmcampos. Follow for free to be alerted to everything that I do. Thanks for hanging out. This has been VM Campos, and I will see you in the local comic shops.